there, friends. This is August the 31st, 2020. And what I'm seeing before me is the issue of who's in charge. Big time. Okay, the issue of authority. What I have been able to peruse and parse from videos and news and information that I'm getting. Our crisis in leadership has been initiated in academia and in journalism by foreign countries who have used their power to bribe particular scholastic departments, particularly in politics and law and history. Foreign countries have been paying universities to teach Marxism for the last 50 years I know of, all right? And the result is that young people today have a fuzzy notion of who's in charge and what are the limits of authority and what are the levels of authority and how do levels of authority interact and what is the due process in common law for addressing a problem of authority, and what is the authority in the church, and who has what authority in the church, and what is the authority between a man and a woman who are married or not married, and what is the authority of the woman in social discourse, okay? All of this is coming home to me because Marxism and Maoism and cultural destruction has come to our society in the United States and in Britain and Australia and New Zealand also. Okay, there is a movement in academia to make Marxism and the Fabian Society and the Frankfurt School and Saul Alinsky and all of those anarchists, to bring them to bear against civil and due process, against common law. And the way they do it is by confabulating and concocting corporate statutes that the corporate statutes are used to overturn and insinuate unlawful behavior into the social scene. That's what's going on. And so I thought I would come today and take a stand on who I am, what I represent, and who I stand for. Because it's time we do that. If you don't stand for something, you're going to fall for anything. And that's what our kids have done. They've fallen for the Common Core curriculum that the Gates Foundation paid for and has propagated. Yes, I've still got my cough. It's not COVID-19. Okay. And so I will state who I am. I am a member of the bloodline that goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Joseph, and David, and King Zephaniah, who sent his two daughters, Sophia and Tehaphneha, to Cork County, Ireland in 583 BC with the prophet Jeremiah. And the prophet Jeremiah's tomb, by the way, is in Tara. And that line of kings, Celtic kings, eventually were driven out of Ireland by St. Patrick, who was promulgating and preaching a Roman form of Christianity that pretty much left the Celts out. So the Celts went on, Columba went on to Iona, Scotland, and the Celts went on to found, along with the Catholic Vatican authority, 800 monastic and covenantal communities in Britain, which King Henry VIII destroyed, literally took down and destroyed. Those were non-fiduciary sharing communities. Britain had a non-fiat currency economy until King Henry VIII took it down. All right. So I'm of the remnant of the Celts who believed in and lived in the community concept the way that Amish, Mennonite, Hutterite, 12 tribes, okay, do today. All right, so I'm part of a remnant of a remnant of a remnant. Okay, but I'm a kind of Christian woman who is not educated by just one book, all right? Because the Tetragrammaton, the Yahweh or Jehovah, however you pronounce it, that name, that holy name, is in other books as well. It's in the Oahspe, it's in the Urantia book, and it's implied in Voyagers 2. Of course, the book of Enoch doesn't carry the name, but it has the same story as Genesis. And Sumerian cuneiform tablets have the same story as Genesis, okay? So I have a body of books of literature that all talk about the same story with the same characters, and they're basically the same story that's in just the Bible. The Bible is a summary of it. So I'm a Judeo-Christian that follows a little bit differently in the literature. But there is a norm that when a woman is speaking in public, prophesying is what they call it, a woman is not a leader like a preacher or a pastor or a priest who helps the people along in their particular paths by staging liturgies and ceremonies that enable their vows and their covenants among themselves. I don't do that. Okay. What I do, which is what Shekinah did, okay, and what Mary did to Jesus. I don't know if you noticed the relationship between Mary and Jesus. Okay. It was not easy because she kept calling him to task to make him behave the way a mother makes a son behave. And that's the role of the woman in society, to get her children and to adopt and accept the authority of social norms that make sense. The social norms that do not make sense, she needs to call into question and doubt. Okay. And so this is what I have been doing. When I was a witness, I went out in the ministry and door to door too, and I showed people how to get their way around the scriptures. That was my job, not telling them what they had to do with their lives. You see the difference? I don't tell people what to do. I lay out the backstory and lay out the options, and you figure it out, okay? And so as an assent to the authority of God, because I don't have a husband, God is my head, I wear a head covering now. It's as simple as that, okay? Whether I'm in private or in public, I have a form of head covering that announces to the angels and to God that I accept the authority of the Creator to determine and require behavior that makes sense in the creation. All right? It's a little different take on it. And the things that I bring up, the Maritime Admiralty treaties that belittle and denounce and deny human rights, is not a role or function that has been actively attacked by the religious right. Okay, the religious left talk about the lack of mercy and the lack of charity and the lack of compassion, but they don't have a process, a rule of law, a way to get there from here. They have been taught by the cultural demolition teams at university and the Maoists and the Marxists that tearing down what you have is all you have to do. You can tear down what you have. All right, tear down the house you live in. Now, what do you want to do about it? how do you want to live once you've torn your house down? Well, that's what these protests and riots are doing. They're tearing down the house with having a clue what it is that's going to have to replace the house they've just torn down. In Britain, there's a movement to destroy the monarchy. But what they don't get is that the monarchy is the checks and balances tool contained in the common law constitution that enables the monarch to bring parliament into question, to bring the judiciary into question, to bring the church into question. You destroy the monarchy, and we all live in a democracy where there's a 51% tyrannical fight over everything. Is that what you want? Be part of a 51% tyranny? Deriding and dividing from the other 49%? Well, that's what you get if you remove the monarchy from the common law constitution of Britain and the Canadian arm of it and the Australian arm of it. Take out the church and take out the monarchy, and there's nobody left to confront the corporate statute new world order or its methods or its aims or its goals, which is to chip us all and make us chattel cattle in a paddock. Is that what you want? Okay. So I'm coming a little more clear on what my job is. I am not the kind of leader that is going to dictate to people what they ought to do, like a judge tells what has to happen here. No. I'm going to talk about the backstory and the conflicts that go unresolved and the problems that have no process to get fixed, like the movement to destroy the monarchy and the church in Britain. If you do that, you're going to be like France and only have factional fighting, and there's nobody left. There are no checks and balances to make the factions behave or bring the church up to date with the reality of conditions. You see what I'm saying? All right. So I do have a place and I do have a part, and I'm doing the best I can with it. And I appreciate your feedback. I always get interesting comments, you know. I really like them. So this has been Maureen Emily Windsor Craig, and there's a whole string of names because I was a foster kid. But God is my head, and the Bible story, the Bible plot, is the outworking of the will of the Creator. And so this is what I speak to. And you do what you want. Okay, we'll see you.